Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to What Sharon Said Life, Learning, and Anti Racism. I'm Sharon Hurley Hall, founder of Sharon's Anti Racism newsletter and the Share Anti Racism community, author of I'm Tired of Racism, educator, activist, mentor for introverts. I'm interested in pretty much everything, hence the subtopics for the show Life, Learning, and Anti Racism. And today I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating keeping a promise to myself because at the start of the year, I said I wanted to get more comfortable doing live shows on my own. And so I decided that by the end of the year, I was going to do at least 10 live episodes. And this, as you can see, squeaking in at the last minute, is episode 10 of What Sharon Said. And I've titled it, And That's a Wrap, mainly because it is the last episode I'll be recording this year. I have not made any decisions about what happens next year. And as you can see, as we go through this show, there are lots of other things coming up, um, which mean I may or may not do many more episodes of this, or I may do another season. Who knows? I would love to hear from you what you've thought of the show, if there's anything you'd particularly like me to talk about. And I will definitely give that some thought as I'm planning for 2026. So, yeah, let's dive in. Um, I am grateful to everyone who is joining me live. Right at the moment, I am not seeing any comments from anyone, but I know that you're out there. And if you're team replay, glad you're here too. So yeah, let's start with life. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap of some of the things that have happened this year, and also, feel free to ask me questions, make comments as we go through. So yeah, this has been an interesting year. This was the year that I turned 60 earlier this year, which tends to make you think a lot about legacy, impact, and what the hell you're actually doing with your life. So yeah, I've been thinking about that, but it didn't start this year, to be honest. It's gone on for quite a while. And so as part of that milestone, I gave a present to myself, which was taking a trip to Panama. And in fact, one of the earlier episodes of What Sharon Said talks about this. But one of the things that it reinforced for me was that I could slow down, absolutely slow down. Hi, Chris. Really glad to see you there. Right? I could slow down. I could turn off notifications. The world wouldn't end. And honestly, since I came back, most of those notifications have stayed off. And I think my family would disagree that I spend less phone time, but I believe that I use it in a different way. And certainly, the fact of having turned off notifications means that I choose when to engage. Now, I may choose to engage often, I may not, but the fact is that it's up to me. And so that was a big change that I was happy to bring into my life. What else did I learn this year? I learned or relearned about the value of community. I'm a member of a number of communities, the Flow Lab, run by M. Goldenrit, the Identity and Belonging Lab, which is now, I think, the Rise and Shine Collective or something like that, run by Erin Corrine Johnson, my own Share community. And one of the things that I learned again this year is about the importance of communities. This is how we move forward. This is how we get out of this, right? This is how we change the things that need to be changed, right? And it's also where we get support when we are flagging. One of the phrases that I've said this year on Sam Chavez's podcast is be the drops. And for me, that encapsulates a couple of ideas. One of them being that there are lots of us working on fighting oppression, And sometimes when one or two of us have to rest, it doesn't mean that the fight doesn't go on. And so we can go and recover and then come back. With my mantra this year also being impact without exhaustion, that's very important. And so I had some really practical lessons. Yes, I agree. I agree with Evan here. Being in community might have been the best part of this year, for sure. I think one of the things that I learned is that many of us have more support than we realize. And so when I had to take some time off, members of my community stepped in and kept things going, and they've done that at other times when I was away for a few weeks in September. And so, building community, showing up the way that you want others to show up, leading from a perspective of empathy and understanding, of knowing that you don't know it all, from, learning from each other. I think all of that helps to build the kinds of communities that support us as we go through what is a very trying time on a global scale. So yeah, that was a lesson. I learned that I could slow down. I learned about support, and very recently, I learned that I was lucky. Something that happened to me at the end of November was that I was in a car accident with someone who thought that it was a good idea to try to overtake three stationary cars, of which mine was one, and scraped along the whole outside of the car. But I wasn't hurt. I was able to walk out of the car. You know, the car was damaged, and that is inconvenient, but the car is a thing. And so I really felt that luck then. And gratitude, because we can't take our presence for granted, and we can't take what we're here to do for granted either. So I was very blessed, I think, to be able to walk away from that. And anyone who has seen the picture of the crumpled side of the car agrees with me. So yes, definitely lucky to walk away there. Yeah, so those are some of the life experiences. Something else that I did this year that was very different was co-hosted a live event in London with Yinka Iwola, Quiet Queens. And so now I'm the kind of person that does that, introvert that I am. That was a learning experience. It was something that we thought about, that we planned, that we achieved, and that we did a great job of, according to all the feedback. And so I was excited to do that, and felt so energized afterwards that we're planning to do it again next summer. So watch this space. I will keep you posted. So yeah, those are some of the life lessons. I find that you get lessons every day from different experiences that you have, or sometimes experiences that you avoid. And so those are not the only lessons I learned this year, but they were some of the important ones, and they're definitely going to make a difference to how I choose to show up. So let's move on to learning. And learning has been more about teaching, because I truly believe that when you're in that kind of environment, you learn from everybody that you come into contact with, as you do in community. And so this was a year where I continued what I'd started last year and did more courses. I started with content stuff, repeating my self-publishing masterclass, and I did some other resources related to that. But I had an epiphany while I was in the Identity and Belonging Lab, and I ran it past the people in the group and thought, yeah, I'm feeling called to do more introversion support. So I've been doing, so Quiet Queens was almost the start of that. I think I've done it unwittingly, because as one half of the Introvert Sisters team, I've been very public about my introversion. And so, it's something that I've talked about, but I started talking about it more. I started sharing experiences about what it feels like to be at big networking events and why I always want my own room and things like that. And so that led to Quiet Queens, but then also leaning more explicitly into supporting introverts with learning experiences. So I've done a couple of things this year so far, and I have a couple more planned for next year. So this year I did 7 Secrets of Introvert Success, as well as a handout on boundary setting, and that went really, really well. Of course, me being me, having framed it as 7 Secrets, I then came up with a new name for it. And so now I'm calling this the Recharge Formula. And I've just done an 8-day Telegram experience with a handful of people running through the introduction to that formula. And it has been a very different kind of group. And I say that because I wanted it to be introvert friendly. I wanted people to come in and get what they needed. I wanted them to have the option to lurk. Some people have lurked. Some people have come in and said one thing. They've reacted with an emoji. I know that they're taking the content in. A couple of people have shared. And so it's very much quieter than most groups of these kinds. But it will be very interesting when I collect the feedback over the next couple of days, because I think that in many respects it has worked. And it also works for neurodivergent folks, right? Who are looking for a way to manage the overwhelm. So this is my new thing that I'm going to be launching next year, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. Of course, with most of these things, not everything has gone according to plan. But let me share Chris's. Yes, I'm very public about my introversion. Indeed, I don't think that there's anything to hide, Chris. I think it's not a deficit, not necessarily a superpower either. It's just the way that I am. And so why try to be anybody else? You know, life's too short. Seriously, life is too short to try to be anybody else or to live in a way that doesn't work for you. So, yeah, as with all of these things, when you try a lot of things, not everything goes according to plan, but that's all part of the learning experience, isn't it? And so I have enjoyed that. Everything that I've done has led me to new insights that then I can take forward to new things. So yes, I'm going to come back in a little while to things that are coming up at the end of the show. But let me turn for a little while to anti-racism. Anti-racism is still foundational and always will be for me. So, when I'm talking about self-publishing, I'm also talking about the experience for Black and global majority people. I'm talking about newsletter launches, when I'm talking about community building, when I'm talking about introversion, that experience can't be ignored as far as I'm concerned, because I'm coming at it from a particular perspective. I'm Black, I'm a woman, I'm introverted, also neurodivergent. And so I bring all of those to those experiences. And so even though I've spent more time of late talking about introversion, it does not mean that I'm ignoring the anti-racism. Share has passed its 1-year milestone and is still going strong. We are a small but active and committed community. And we had just the absolute best 2025 wrap-up meeting where we considered, the whole idea of support and what that looked like, and had some great insights from members of the community. We will be opening the doors to new members again in January. So if this is something that you think you would like, an anti-racism community that is active, committed, and where part of the membership goes into a reparations fund, then get in touch with me and let's talk. Also, another milestone is that Share had its 5th anniversary. Not Share, San had its 5th anniversary this year. So we're now into year 6 of Sharon's anti-racism newsletter. And, there are a lot of new things coming up as well. It has been very interesting to me with the whole shift in global discourse on racism and DEI that some people have fallen by the wayside. But then there are also other people that are still very committed. And surprisingly to me, there are people who have not yet realized that all oppression is linked. So there's no point talking about, um, saving one community and ignoring the rest. It's all part of a system. It's all linked. It's often all the same playbook. The only difference is who happens to be in the frame at the particular moment. So our goal as anti-racists, I feel, has to be to fight all oppression. And I'm not making this into a big task that each of us has to carry alone. As I said, be the drops, do what you can, start from where you are, and do better every time. You know, some people, there are some things that it is not possible for you to do depending on your circumstances, but then you might be able to do others. Maybe you can't stop shopping at a particular outlet because it's the one closest to you, and that's what you need to do. But that doesn't mean that perhaps you can't call your political representatives and make some noise. So you do what you can. And I think Cher has definitely illustrated that. And some of the feedback I've had from the newsletter has also illustrated that willingness to do what you can to open your mind to make change. Of course, I would love it if more people actually supported the newsletter financially, but I'm grateful for those that do. And I'm glad that the word is getting out there. All right, so let me talk a little bit about some of the good moments that have happened this year, the other good moments. Apart from the highlight of Quiet Queens, um, my book that is 3 years old is still winning prizes. It was a top pick in the Reader Ready category in Author Shout, and it also won a finalist award from the American Writing Association. I have had some great testimonials for my work. Most recently, from one of my clients who said that borrowing my brain was opening a fire hose of ideas, but ideas that would work the way that she worked, that she could actually implement. And you really couldn't ask for better than that. Some great client successes as well, helping people to achieve projects. I've seen projects where people borrowed my brain in the past come to fruition this year, so I'm really delighted about that. I have been helping a client with community building based on everything that I have learned with my own community and being in community, part of growing other communities. And so that has been pretty exciting as well. Well, yeah, it has been a year. And it's been a year where there are times when it's felt very tiring and hopeless. And then every now and then you get a sliver of hope that encourages you to keep going. I don't know what it's been like for you, but that is the kind of year it has been. Sometimes you feel like you're going full steam ahead. Sometimes you feel like you're falling by the wayside on your own. And again, I think community is what makes the difference here. The ability to go to someone and say, this is how I'm feeling, this is how it is for me, and have somebody listen and understand, right? The ability to seek help when you're out of solutions, all of those things help in this very long-term enterprise we're in of fighting oppression and racism and bigotry. So, with that, let me talk a little bit about what's happening next year. So you will have seen, if you have been watching my sister Lisa Hurley's Space to Exhale podcast, that the Introvert Sisters is coming back next year as a live. Similar to Lisa's podcast, we will stream it on YouTube and LinkedIn and maybe a couple other platforms. And then make the podcast audio available where podcast audio lives, wherever that is. Not quite sure where yet. So we're very excited to bring that back in, I believe that it's going to be in February. And so we've started to think about what that is going to look like. It is likely not going to be weekly because we are going to be managing our energy, but it might be twice a month. I have finally decided that it is time to start working on my next book, which currently is a sequel to I'm Tired of Racism, another collection with some new pieces. I already have an outline, and so I'm going to be working on that in and between over the course of the year. Not necessarily expecting that to come out in 2026, possibly more likely in 2027, but watch this space. What else is coming up? As I said, Yinka and I have been talking about Quiet Queens 2. No idea yet whether that's going to be identical to what we had last year or whether it's going to be something slightly different. We already have some spaces booked because the people that attended last year liked it so much that they wanted to get ahead of the game. I am planning a retreat in Barbados in September. And the one thing I know about that is that I know that I'm going to end up disappointing some people. As of today, I have 32 people who are interested for a maximum of 12 places. So, not everyone's going to sign up, but I thought that was a good starting point. And depending on how it goes, I may think about doing other retreats after that. And of course, I'm going to be doing more support for introverts. One of the things I'll be starting with is the full rollout of the Recharge framework via an 8-week container, shall we call it, running from late January to mid-March. And so look out for news of that. And I'm thinking about other ways in which I can support my fellow introverts. I now have a whole range of things, including Borrow Sharon's Brain, or aka the Clarity Boost, and a partnership which allows us to work together long-term on something. And I'm considering, as if I'm not doing enough, whether it makes sense for me to launch a newsletter focused on this audience alone. I suspect the answer might be yes. What I don't know is whether I actually have the energy to do another one, but we'll see. So yeah, that is pretty much what is coming up in the new year. And I want to thank all of you who have tuned in this year, come to support the show, watched me do this video thing. And I really, really appreciate you. If you have any questions for me, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll give it a couple of minutes. But yeah, I am now getting to the time of year where I'll be winding down. I've done as much wrapping of projects as I can. I'm scheduling the last couple of pieces for my newsletter, and I'm looking forward to having a total break for a couple of weeks before coming back refreshed next year. So yeah, thanks again for joining me. It has been great to be here with you. And that's it from me for What Sharon Said for 2025. See you next time. Bye.